All right, everybody, we are live. Wait for everyone to start trickling in here. But as you know, right now, the United States has conducted strikes against Iran in conjunction with Israel and coordinated strikes with Israel and Iran. I'll wait for people to start trickling in here, but in the interest of the replay, I'll make sure that we are covering information as it comes in and going from there. So this is what we know right now. We know that some time ago, and if you were here live last night, you know that I called this live last night. I said that we are going to hit Iran. I said before Monday. And I said, I think it might be tonight because it follows the indications and warnings of what happened with the Maduro raid, right? The raid into Venezuela when we captured Nicolas Maduro. Very similar word coming out of the White House, word coming out of the Pentagon. And so this is where we are right now. The United States is conducting strikes against Iran. All right, I'm going to go ahead and throw this up here right now so we can take a look at, first of all, what is going on. So the military sites, just so we get a good idea, the buildup in the Middle East, first of all, these are the locations, naval assets in the orange circles. The blue circles, we have air assets, okay? The buildup included assets in Greece, in Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, UAE, all over the place, basically encircling Iran. And as people start to trickle in, I'm going to go ahead and cover some of these things. But the key point is that this has been building up. We've been telegraphing this strike for a while, okay? And if you're a strategic leader in Iran or somewhere like that, and you know you're being threatened, and you think that this is a country or this is a leader that's not going to do what they said they're going to do after you saw what happened in Venezuela, after you've seen Operation Midnight Hammer last June, well, you're sorely mistaken. And so now, and this is the thing, is that we need to see what the results are of this. But as we know right now, there are coordinated strikes between the United States and Israel against Iran. Okay, so that's where we sit right now. I'm going to go ahead and share this next little video and just make sure we build our situational awareness. And again, from last night's live, these are some of the possible nuclear sites in Iran. Okay, so some of the strike sites. And we're going to pull up a map of also where did we hit. Just to kind of recap from last night. If you were here last night, again, last night I called this in the live stream. I said, I think we're actually going to strike. We're going to strike Iran. We're going to strike them before Monday, is what I said. Okay, and so it turns out, unfortunately, I was right. And I think many of you in the chat from last night can remember we were voting on that, taking a poll. Will we strike Iran before Monday? And I even just said that the indications and warning last night, like I hate to say I told you so, I hate to say I was right, but I was right. Indications and warnings, the telegraphing that was going on from the military buildup, first of all, if that doesn't wake you up and make you think, okay, hey, something's about to happen here, okay? If you don't realize that, then honestly, you're a little bit stupid. If you don't see aircraft carrier after aircraft carrier moving in the region, naval asset after naval asset moving into the region, and we're doing diplomatic talks, doing all these things, we hit you before, and then you're thinking that this isn't going to happen. I just don't understand. I don't understand. And again, they have their calculus, but the bottom line is this, is that Iran got hit by the United States and by Israel. This map right now we're looking at, this map are the strike sites. Okay, this is on the Institute for National Security Studies, International Security Studies. The strike sites are in red. places that have been hit. So we can see in Tehran. And again, going back, if you see the strike sites here, Tehran or significantly around Tehran, Isfahan as well. And if you look, though, at this arc, it matches very closely, if you look here, the nuclear sites, okay? The nuclear sites that we covered last night in the live, a lot of those were hit. So, hey, Lisa, how you doing? Good to have you. Diamond Dog, what's going on? Yep, we're gonna see what's gonna happen in the market. All those things like that. Like I said last night, we're gonna talk about that. But cost imposing strategy by Iran is probably, if they survive. I don't think they're going to survive the initial salvo. The initial attacks, I don't see their regime surviving. Honestly, there are words right now, as you saw the title of my live stream, there's word right now that the supreme leader of Iran, the Ayatollah, has been killed. That he was killed in what Israel called, I believe it was Israel's Channel 12 or something like that, he called an unsurvivable strike on his compound and his residence, okay? So if he was there where they thought he was, it's an unsurvivable strike according to the news outlets out there right now, okay? So, and again, the map we're looking at right now are the strike sites, okay? These are the sites that were hit according to the International Institute for Strategic Studies, it's the same organization I used last night in our live when I predicted that we would hit them, like I said, 3 a.m., 4 a.m. Okay, I did this for a living for a while, right? And the hours of weakness is what we'd call those times. 2 a.m. to 4 a.m., the hours of weakness. And that's when you strike, when alert levels are the most low. And they did daylight strikes as well, too. So I'm not completely right about that. But usually for raids and things like that, they do it, at a later time, at an earlier time in the morning. Okay, so let's see what's going on. Before we dive into more of these maps, let's jump in right now and let's watch some of the news, because part of what I want to do is I want to cover some of the news that's out there so you guys don't have to do it yourselves. You come here, one-stop shop, we cover it. All right, so here we go. And I'll go back to those maps later.
Checking in with our different experts around the clock to get all of the latest information and get their take on everything. I want to bring in Enya Kervine with the Foundation for Defense of Democracy. She is a good friend of the show, joining us now live. Enya, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us.
Josh, it's always great to see you, though they're usually in difficult circumstances.
Most definitely. And I wanted to ask what the situation is like on the ground right now. We know that folks are running into their shelters, they're having to leave. So can you kind of break down the situation for me?
Sure. And Josh, before we do that, if you'll allow me, we are in a hot conflict. I'm based in Israel, and my little sort of home studio is in my shelter. So if there is an alert, you'll see my family filing in. This isn't their first rodeo. They'll take a seat and we'll continue.
Well, so, you better go to the shelter if any sirens blare. I won't let you keep talking.
We're in the shelter. This is the shelter.
Gotcha.
You're joining me in my shelter, but my children may also join. So just as a heads up, but we've done this before. They know the drill, and they know that.
All right, so she's in Israel right now. If you guys are following along, she's in Israel. And
so the day started at 8:15 with a siren that was nationwide, and essentially everyone receives an alert on their phone that says, "Okay, we've preemptively attacked Iran, and you need to make sure that you know where the nearest shelter is for the coming hours." And then there was a series of alerts in my area. Of course, the alerts are specific to region. So I'm further north, closer to Haifa. We had a very intense period from about 10 a.m. till about noon, and we've had a little bit of quiet since then. But I've been watching reports as other parts of the country, especially Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, have been under pretty consistent attacks since this morning.
And you kind of mentioned this, but if you think about it, you are almost used to this. This has become a way of life. Obviously, right now, it's probably a little bit more intense considering all of this is unfolding.
All right, I'm going to switch it up.
The United States military began major combat operations in Iran. Our objective is to defend the operations in Iran. Short time ago.
Here we go. So this is President Trump now. Again, I want to cover all the bases before we go into some deeper level analysis. But here's President Trump on what happened today, if you haven't seen this yet.
The United States military began major combat operations in Iran. Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime, a vicious group of very hard, terrible people. Its menacing activities directly endanger the United States, our troops, our bases overseas, and our allies throughout the world. For 47 years, the Iranian regime has chanted death to America and waged an unending campaign of bloodshed and mass murder, targeting the United States, our troops, and the innocent people in many, many countries. Among the regime's very first acts was to back a violent takeover of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, holding dozens of American hostages for 444 days. In 1983, Iran's proxies carried out the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut that killed 241 American military personnel. In 2000, they knew and were probably involved with the attack on the USS Cole. Many died. Iranian forces killed and maimed hundreds of American service members in Iraq. The regime's proxies have continued to launch countless attacks against American forces stationed in the Middle East in recent years, as well as U.S. Navy.
Now, I'm going to comment on that for a second, okay? Because that's 100% true personal experience for me in Iraq, okay? So, some people may question, how do we know all these things? 100% true, okay? I was deeply involved in, having specialized knowledge and deep knowledge, intelligence knowledge, things like that, of Iranian activities. And I will tell you, in Iraq, some of the most deadly improvised explosive devices and mines and the technology was all trained. They were Iranian trainers in Iranian weapon systems. These weapons that killed a lot of U.S. service members, lots of Iraqis as well too. But they were in there fighting a proxy war the whole time, and unfortunately, we couldn't do anything about it. So we could have done something about it. I shouldn't say that couldn't. We could have, but we didn't have the political will to go and do anything. Okay, so it was a lot of shadow fighting, a lot of things like that. The whole death to America, all this. The attacks, constant attacks, waging war. And I'm just going to say it, and people can think what they want, but you reap what you sow. You reap what you sow. If you live by the sword, and, guess what? Eventually it's going to come back to roost on you, especially when you keep poking the bear. When you keep on going after someone that is way more powerful than you, by orders of magnitude more powerful, but at the time you think the society's weak and you think there won't be retribution or retaliation, this is the mindset of the leadership there. They won't do anything. They blah, blah, blah. They're too weak. They're Americans. They really haven't looked at American history. If you look at American history, man, honestly, it is. You fuck around, you find out. That is American history, right? The Japanese found out, right? Go all back to the Revolutionary War, the War of 1812. We go back to, all these different scenarios where, America's reluctant to get involved in conflict. But when they do, like, in World War II, for example, they tend to go overboard. Okay, this isn't me making this up. This is actually a book by Dr. Joseph Strange, who wrote a book on capital W war, about the U.S. way of waging war throughout history. And it's usually very reluctant. It's kind of a U.S. strategic culture, right, where it's very reluctant. But then when we finally get pissed off enough and we do it, and we gather the political will, or the leader comes in, whether you want to say it's the right leader or the wrong leader, for them it's the wrong leader, right? For the Iranians, it's the Iranian regime, not the Iranian people, but the Iranian regime is the wrong leader comes in, and he has a mandate and he has support. Things happen, right? Or the American people get so pissed off that they support military action. So this is kind of U.S. strategic culture, in my opinion, and in my judgment, for decades, centuries at this point, of what it looks like. Okay. And so we're seeing that again, massive buildup, massive telegraphing. Yes, we do sneaky strikes too, all that stuff like that. But there's nothing sneaky about this. This is months of buildup, just like the whole Maduro thing in Venezuela, months of buildup. with diplomatic talks and offerings and, off ramps and things like that. And then massive strikes, no half measures. Again, this is American way of war. As I understand it, in my judgment, from my experience as a Marine Corps officer as an active duty Marine Corps officer for 23 years, retired as a Marine Corps Lieutenant Colonel. I've been to war. I've been a commander in combat multiple times. And I've studied strategy for a better part of my life. So this is in my judgment what's going on. And again, you don't have to agree with me. I'm just saying that's what I think the American way of war and how we do things. And so they're getting it firsthand. But it's a strategic opportunity, huge opportunity for the Iranian people to, I think, take control of their lives. I don't see this turning into a ground war, but I'll get into analysis later. I don't see this turning into a ground war. I don't see it turning into, we're not going to pound them so hard that their infrastructure is destroyed. That'd be counterproductive, because we, I think, want to leave things intact so the Iranian people can determine their fate in the future. Okay, let's keep going here. That's my 2 cents. Guys, put in the chat. We got the smartest chat in YouTube. We got the best chat in YouTube, but you guys jump in the chat. Tell me what you think, and we'll interact. As always, we got the best chat in YouTube here. Appreciate you guys. Shout outs to everybody joining me for the Emergency Live. I called it last night, right? Did I not? I called it. I told you guys. Let's keep going.
Stationed in the Middle East in recent years, as well as U.S. naval and commercial vessels in international shipping lanes. It's been mass terror, and we're not going to put up with it any longer. From Lebanon to Yemen and Syria to Iraq, the regime has armed, trained, and funded terrorist militias that have soaked the earth with blood and guts. And it was Iran's proxy, Hamas, that launched the monstrous October 7th attacks on Israel, slaughtering more than 1,000 innocent people, including 46 Americans, while taking 12 of our citizens hostage. It was brutal, something like the world has never seen before. Iran is the world's #1 state sponsor of terror, and just recently killed tens of thousands of its own citizens on the street as they protested. It has always been.
We talked about that last night. They killed the estimates are between 10 to 30,000 people. 10 to 30,000 the Iranian regime killed. I want you to think about that for a minute, okay? Think about 10 to 30,000, all right? So right now, we are witnessing history in real time, everyone, okay? And today, February 28th, the world has changed officially. The United States and Israel have launched Operation Epic Fury. It's a massive coordinated strike deep into the heart of Iran. We're talking about hits on Tehran, Isfahan, Qom. The big question everyone's asking is the Supreme Leader still standing? Okay? And so we've got reports of heavy damage to his compound. This isn't just a skirmish. This is a seismic shift in global leadership, right? If you look, the strike in Venezuela, the strike in Iran. And I want to and guys, put a 1 in the chat. Put a 1 in the chat if you think, if you thought this was going to happen. Put a 1 in the chat if you thought that this was going to happen this weekend. Okay? And we have a record from last night. If you tell me you did and you did it. So put a 1 in the chat though, Chad. If you thought this was going to happen last night, if you saw this coming, put a 1 in the chat. Put a 0 in the chat if you did not see it coming, okay? Just get a pulse on everybody here. And again, welcome everyone. If you're new here, please like, subscribe, and share. If you think someone's going to get something out of this, we're going to do a deep dive on what's happening with Operation Epic Fury and just what is happening. We did a live stream last night where I called it. I'm not being cocky here, but I called it. And everyone can tell you that in the chat. I called it. I said we were going to do this. We were going to hit them before Monday. I believed it would be this morning. Early Saturday morning, which it was because of just the indications and warnings, the military buildup, the same pattern of offers of negotiation, peace talks, pressing for peace talks. And finally, when the peace talks didn't work, they kept their word, right? And this is how you establish global power. This is how you establish power in any relationship. If you say you're going to do something, when you say no, make your no mean a no, right? I'm just saying, more broadly for our own personal lives. But when you say you threaten you're going to use force, you have to use it. You can't back off, because if you do that, people think you're a paper tiger and that you'll blink and that you don't mean it. So that's what's happening right now. Again, put a 1 in the chat if you thought this was going to happen. Put a 0 if you did not see it coming. Well, Diamond Dog said no. Let's see. Corey says 1. Yep. Lisa Jones says no. The Diamond Dog. Yeah, it's interesting stuff. But again, if you're new here, welcome. We've got the best chat in YouTube. Many people have said it when they come. Most intelligent, most collaborative, collegial. You can agree to disagree. You can debate, all those things like that. But everybody keeps it pretty cool. So bear with me. I'm going to give you my experiences based on a career as a Marine Corps officer and as a strategist, studying national security strategy, international, global strategy, things like that for a long, long time, and being a practitioner, commander in combat, all those things like that. Okay. So let's keep deep diving into this. But some of the facts we know right now are that we have B-2 bombers and Israeli jets targeted the official residence and office of the Supreme Leader Ayatollah al-Khamenei in downtown Tehran. Okay, satellite images show the compound is heavily damaged. Israeli intelligence is suggesting he may have been hit. The counterclaim by the Iranian state media is pushing back very hard. They're saying their foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, just told NBC News that all high-ranking officials are alive and that Khamenei has been moved to a secure underground bunker. We won't know the truth of this for a while, okay? The truth, whether he's alive or not, the aura of invincibility that Iran has enjoyed for a long time, frankly, because the U.S. lacked the political will to do what it's doing right now, the aura of invincibility around the regime has been shattered. Their command and control is in chaos. Could we have done this 10 years ago? Of course we could have. We could have done this for decades, but we just didn't, okay? The word from the White House, you're hearing it right now. President Trump just released a powerful video, which we are watching. I'm going to go ahead and keep playing that in a second. He's not holding back, as you can see. He's called the Iranian regime vicious, hard, terrible people. Here are the key quotes that we need to hear. A short time ago, the United States military began major combat operations in Iran. Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. He's going to say this. We're going to play it in a second. Lay down your arms or you will face certain death. That means they have them dialed in and targeted, and they mean it, okay? That 100%. I've seen that real time. To the Iranian people, your hour of freedom is at hand. When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. This is a direct call for regime change. Okay, I think we all knew that coming. This would be the objective. Trump is telling the Iranian people that the door is open and now they have to walk through it. All right. Okay, and we're going to talk about other things in a minute here, like Iran's retaliation. But let's keep on watching this video. Let's get through this. We have a lot of material to cover, so we have a firm understanding of what's going on.
The policy of the United States citizens on the street as they protested. It has always been the policy of the United States, in particular, my administration, that this terrorist regime can never have a nuclear weapon. I'll say it again. They can never have a nuclear weapon. That is why in Operation Midnight Hammer last June, we obliterated the regime's nuclear program at Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. After that attack, we warned them never to resume their malicious pursuit of nuclear weapons, and we sought repeatedly to make a deal. We tried. They wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. Again, they wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. They didn't know what was happening. They just wanted to practice evil. But Iran refused, just as it has for decades and decades. They've rejected every opportunity to renounce their nuclear ambitions, and we can't take it anymore. Instead, they attempted to rebuild their nuclear program and to continue developing long-range missiles that can now threaten our very good friends and allies in Europe, our troops stationed overseas, and could soon reach the American homeland. Just imagine how emboldened this regime would be if they ever had and actually were armed with nuclear weapons as a means to deliver their message. For these reasons, the United States military is undertaking a massive and ongoing operation to prevent this very wicked, radical dictatorship from threatening America and our core national security interests.
So he's talking about core national security interests. And so I want to say this too, okay? I know I know things have been rough. I played that Dave Chappelle clip last night. Things have been rough, right? In the Trump presidency. Some things have gone right, okay? For example, some things have gone right, but there's been a lot of controversy, a lot of crazy stuff. And so it's hard. I know that the pulse on the people, it's hard sometimes you hear this for us not to have a kind of a cynical view sometimes, right? But I will tell you as a strategist, I want to say this. This is very clear to me, right? A threat to our way of life, our vital core national security interests, such as physical security and our assets and our interests, like our troops and our people and our allies, for Iran getting a nuclear weapon. This all matches up. The maths, right? The math adds up on all of these things. And 100% they are a state sponsor of terrorism. All those things are true. Two things can be true, right? We still have scandals, all those things like that. We can still, and we're not ignoring any of that, and we're not going to get distracted by a war. But two things can be true: that yes, there is a country that wants to blow you up and hurt you, and it's just like kind of like when you're dumb enough to think that there aren't crazy people who will rob you, will kill you, will steal from you, or there aren't shysters out there who will steal your money. If you're ignorant, right, a fool and his or her money is soon parted. And so two things can be true, right? We still have to have accountability for many things, and we still have a lot of fixing to do domestically. But this is also a true thing to me, where this was actually a vital national security interest threat. Iran had to be dealt with. They were given multiple off-ramps. I mean, all you got to do, like I said last night, buy your enriched uranium from Canada or from Kazakhstan, from the land of Borat, okay? You can buy it from one of these places, and guess what? You can have nuclear energy. You can still have all your missiles. You can still have your influence in the region. We even didn't destroy them for having all the crazy proxies they had, right? Okay? And so, but you hit this inflection point, not inflection point, you hit this trigger line where you keep trying to get nuclear weapons. You've stated your policies to destroy Israel. You chant death to America. Not only that, you attack our troops. You do terrorist attacks, all these things like that, okay? Even then, all these years, 8 presidents, right? 40 years, we haven't done what we're doing right now, okay? But now here it is. And so, and I want to make a comment on this as well too. As a student of the history of warfare, and as a practitioner as a military practitioner and a military professional for the better part of my whole life, okay, I want to say this, and as a professional Marine Corps officer, okay, I want to say that the nature of war has not changed, but the character of war has. What do I mean by that? I mean the weapon systems we use today, and we enjoy this ability to strike them in a limited fashion, in a precise fashion, like we're not rubbling a whole city. Will there be collateral damage? I'm sure there will be. I have almost no doubt, right? There always is, because especially regimes like this, they hide command and control nodes inside hospitals, inside civilian areas, all those things. I'm sure there'll be big fallout, but not what it would have been 50 years ago or 100 years ago. Okay, look at World War II. We firebombed Tokyo. We firebombed Dresden. Like we created so much death and carnage that nothing stood. And again, I'll go back to Borat. So that not even the lizard survived, or literally, okay? So we enjoy a position where we can do much more precise strikes. Yes, I know I'm not naive to think there will be no collateral damage. There will be. But it's a hell of a lot, way less than it would have been 50 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, okay? You couldn't take this option without taking over the whole country. All right, Cody Fisher, thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you, man. Cody Fisher says, I don't even have words. Act on behalf of another country. I'm sick of it. We have nothing but the blood spilled and greed on our hands. All right, my brother. I appreciate I appreciate the contribution here. Thank you very much. For some reason, I cannot reply to this, but thank you, Cody. But what I do want to say is that I will address that. I think it's in the vital national interest of the United States to do what it has just done. Okay, there are many calculations to make, but it is in the core vital national interest. Now, a ground invasion and occupying Iran and taking over the country is a whole other thing. Okay. In my judgment, in my strategic judgment, like I said, as a lifetime practitioner of strategy and of having been a practitioner and a participant and all those things like that. That's my opinion. But, like I said, in the chat, we're entitled to our opinions and we're going to debate it and talk about it, but I definitely appreciate it. And I see where you're coming from. I know there are a lot of people that have that opinion. But, for me, that's what I think. Having seen what these guys have done, and literally we would know about an IRGC or a Quds Force special operations, like terror cell, basically, in Najaf, for example, in Iraq, and we could not touch them. But we know they're training people. We know they're supplying IED material, all these things that IED training. We cannot touch them. Okay. This is political will, political issues, right? So, again, anyway, in a lot of ways, you reap what you sow. Eventually you keep poking the bear. You keep on messing with someone a lot more powerful, bigger, and stronger. And eventually, if the winds change and if popular support changes and the strategic calculus changes, then, you're going to get what you get. So, all right, let's keep on going. Let's keep listening to this. But Cody Fisher, I appreciate you again. Thank you for the support, brother. I appreciate everybody here right now. Appreciate your support. Here we go.
We're going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground. It will be totally, again, obliterated. We're going to annihilate their Navy. We're going to ensure that the region's terrorist proxies can no longer destabilize the region or the world and attack our forces and no longer use their IEDs or roadside bombs, as they are sometimes called, to so gravely wound and kill thousands and thousands of people,
100%.
including many Americans. And we will ensure that Iran does not obtain a nuclear weapon. It's a very simple message. They will never have a nuclear weapon. This regime will soon learn that no one should challenge the strength and might of the United States Armed Forces. I built and rebuilt our military in my first administration, and there is no military on earth even close to its power, strength, or sophistication. My administration has taken every possible step to minimize the risk to U.S. personnel in the region. Even so, and I do not make this statement lightly, the Iranian regime seeks to kill. The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war. But we're doing this not for now. We're doing this for the future, and it is a noble mission. We pray for every service member as they selflessly risk their lives to ensure that Americans and our children will never be threatened by a nuclear-armed Iran. We ask God to protect all of our heroes in harm's way, and we trust that with his help, the men and women of the armed forces will prevail. We have the greatest in the world, and they will prevail. To the members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, the armed forces, and all of the police, I say tonight that you must lay down your weapons and have complete immunity, or in the alternative, face certain death. So lay down your arms. You will be treated fairly with total immunity, or you will face certain death. Finally, to the great, proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. Stay sheltered. Don't leave your home. It's very dangerous outside. Bombs will be dropping everywhere. When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. This will be probably your only chance for generations. For many years, you have asked for America's help, but you never got it. No president was willing to do what I am willing to do tonight. Now you have a president who is giving you what you want. So let's see how you respond. America is backing you with overwhelming strength and devastating force. Now is the time to seize control of your destiny and to unleash the prosperous and glorious future that is close within your reach. This is the moment for action. Do not let it pass. May God bless the brave men and women of America's armed forces. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless you all. Thank you.
All right. Well, there we have it. And so I see I've got some questions in the chat, some discussion. Is this theater? Of course it's theater. It's all theater, right? It's all political. It's all politics. But again, like I said, two things can be true. Is it something that is in our core vital national interest, physical security? Yes, it is. Okay. You can't wish away threats. You must address threats. You must neutralize and address threats. Okay. You must seize opportunities in the strategic space. Same thing when I'm coaching people. I'm coaching businesses, coaching executives. You need to seize opportunities and create opportunities. You need to reduce and neutralize threats. You need to protect yourself against getting your boat sunk, so to speak, right, in business and in life. Okay? If you're trying to wish away threats, for example, the credit card debt that keeps on piling up and spiraling on you, you don't deal with that, you're economically, financially going to get sunk. Okay? If you keep ignoring somebody that's going death to America and like launching attacks, you're a fool. Okay? So two things can be true, and I see some things as a theater, all things like that, of course. But two things can be true. Yes, it can be theater, and yes, it can be in our best core vital interest. Okay, and again, like we can agree to disagree and all those things. It's just this is just in my judgment. All right, and also calling the facts like it is, that this is what's happening, and we're going to find out what the retaliation is. And go from there. And something I want to say too, I also see the current an argument out in the kind of YouTube, internet space, social media space of acting on behalf of another country is not in our best interest. Well, guess what? In World War II, we acted on behalf of our allies. Germany never touched American soil. Japan did, right? But we still went ahead and liberated France and liberated Europe from the Germans. Okay, so it was in our best interest at the time, in the judgment of our leaders, and looking back on it, right? So, we have done it in the past, and we probably will do it again in the future if leadership determines that it's in our core vital interest, And again, I've already told you, I think Iran having nuclear weapons is bad, very bad, right? This is not, it's unacceptable, okay? Especially a state sponsor of terror, bad guys for a long time doing bad stuff. Stated policy, not being sneaky about it. Stated policy of countering the United States, attacking the United States, death to America, death to Israel, all those things like that. Okay. So, you can't wish away threats. You've got to do something with them. And this is what's happening. This is what's happening right now. We all want peace. I don't think there's going to be a ground invasion, but we'll see. Okay. So let's cover what's going on, and we'll keep on debating it. And you guys can debate back and forth with me, and we can talk. And like I said, we have an awesome chat. And I love you guys. You guys do a great job of really bringing up some great points. Okay. So, okay. And again, yeah, I see that we let them attack Pearl Harbor. Well, I'm going to tell you, technology is not the same on secure signal today back then as it was today. Okay. So that's very debatable, to be able to react like that, just because you get a report one time in Washington that they might attack Pearl Harbor. It's not like today where you can rush fighter jets and send everything over there and jam their signals. This is World War II. Okay, we're talking like, propeller engine aircraft and all that stuff. So we can debate that all day long, but let's keep on going here. All right. Got some more stuff for you guys. And I appreciate you, chat. Appreciate you guys being here. Again, if you were there last night, I called it last night. I said this is what's happening, right? Not to say I told you so, but I did tell you so. All right, let's take a look at where the strikes have happened. Here's what we have here. Okay, U.S. attacks Iran. Map shows strikes and retaliation by Iran. U.S. military forces aided by Israel launched major combat operations against Iran on Saturday morning, February 28th, with the goal of haunting the country's military and nuclear weapons program and ending its regime. Trump announced the attack, part of a massive ongoing operation, in an 8-minute video posted on Truth Social. We just saw that. When we are finished, take over your government, Trump told the people. We saw that. Okay, reported strikes and possible targets in Iran. New airstrikes. Tabriz, Urmia. There are 6 weapons facilities within Tehran and 2 nuclear sites. Okay, so you see all the strikes here. New airstrikes are the red. Site targeted in 2025, Operation Midnight Hammer. You can see the dotted circle, the red dotted circle at Fordow, Natanz. Those are the targeted sites in 2025, June 2025, Operation Midnight Hammer, okay? And then we can see known weapons known weapons that they have are in the are a red dot, which I'm not really seeing a whole lot right here, just east of Tehran. Nuclear facilities dotted throughout the country. We can see that. Okay. So we got, nuclear facilities dotted throughout the country there. And again, the new airstrikes are indicated by the red explosion splash point right there. And let's see here. Hey, thanks, Unsecure Signal. I love the debate, man. Hey, it's like we all learn together, right? Keep your head on a swivel, because some of the ideas you guys bring up to me, right? I take it into account. I don't say, oh, that's stupid. No, I think about it. I'm like, make sure I'm keeping my eyes open about things. So I think we all learn together, and we got an awesome chat. You guys are awesome. All right. And I'm doing my best to give you guys, honestly, my best opinion on it, my best judgment on it. But I don't know everything. I always say that. I don't know everything. I'm learning with you guys as we go. But I want to give you my best judgment without fear of looking, stupid or being afraid to say what I think. Because I think that's how I can serve the best, right? I've got a long career in this stuff, but does that mean I know everything? No, my guys will tell you that, right? They'd be like, I'm pretty good, but no one's perfect. So anyway, we learn together. It's awesome to have you here, man. Appreciate you guys. All right, let's keep on going on this and see what else we can figure out. Okay, so wow, we went all the way down south too. So President Trump wasn't kidding. They are trying to destroy the Navy too. But again, like I was saying, guys, two things can be true. That this was necessary. Again, the amount and all those things we can debate. I don't have all that information in front of me. But two things can be true. We can still have a lot of messed up stuff at home and accountability issues, Epstein files, all this stuff like that. Doesn't mean it's going away. Yes, I agree. Theater, 100%. It's always theater. It's always theater. The elections are coming in November. Like I said last night, Iran's going to try and do a cost-imposing strategy to cost us in money. So like whether it's the economy drops, supply chain is slowed, all kinds of problems. They know if they can cause enough of a problem before they get wiped out, then, it's going to, maybe they can hold on. Everybody was trying to survive, right? I don't know about the Ayatollah, 86, theocrat, devout religious figure in his own religion, right? Not really completely rational. They could have kept on going, I think, based upon reports I'm reading. Anyway, so let's keep going here. The lives, let's see. Why did the U.S. attack Iran? Trump said Iran was rebuilding its nuclear program after the U.S. bombed its nuclear facility last June. From the evidence we've seen and we saw in many different channels, this is true. They were going beyond civilian refinement for civilian energy source for uranium enrichment. They were going to weapons grade. Okay. So that's what we think according to the evidence out there. That's what they're saying. This is the justification. Okay. Facility was damaged in June. And then November 2025, damaged, facilities repaired. Natanz enrichment site, okay, right here. Combination of satellite images show a previously destroyed building in Iran now has a new roof over its head, was being repaired. In Natanz, that's a nuclear site. Isfahan, uranium enrichment site. Their satellite images show previously destroyed buildings in Iran, June 21st, 2021, and a new roof over one being destroyed. Okay, so lots of stuff here. Lots of stuff. Lots of rebuilding of strike sites in Isfahan and Natanz. Okay. So there are lots of, this is the justification. Okay. Again, keep our head in a swivel. This is the justification. Why did the U.S. attack Iran? Mainly because of this. Mainly because they're trying to restart their nuclear weapons program. Okay. Satellite images show previously destroyed buildings in Iran, June 21st, 2025, and a new roof over one destroyed building. It appears that clearing away debris and reestablishing the surroundings is the main effort. Okay. U.S. attacks U.S. base. Iran attacks U.S. bases and allies. All right, we're going to get into this. Iran is striking back with missile attacks on several U.S. military bases in the Persian Gulf, including Bahrain, the U.S. Navy Fifth Fleet, Kuwait, Ali Al Salem Air Base, home of the 386th Air Expeditionary Wing, Qatar, Al Udeid Air Base, major U.S. Air Force hub. Okay, I've been to a lot of these places. UAE, Al Dhafra Air Base, home to 388th Expeditionary Wing. I've heard also that they struck Dubai. Guys, put a 1 in the chat if you've heard that they struck Dubai. I don't know why they would strike Dubai other than just, I think they think Dubai is, I think they think that they are maybe infidels because they allow all Western style things going on in Dubai and UAE, which Iran does not allow. So guys, put a 1 in the chat if you saw that they struck Dubai, if you've heard that. Okay, okay, is that right? Yeah, put a 1 in the chat. Okay, guys, I'll take a look at that. What's going on, Mark? Havoc, how you doing? Juliet, what's going on? Unsecure Signal. Say my shout outs to everybody. Jay Byrne, the Flying Arrow. What's up, everybody? All right. So I'll get to yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Last night in the live, I was saying, this might be telegraphing also to Russia. And a lot of people disagreed with that. And I don't even know it's a half-baked idea. But, boy, you think about this, right? Maduro has the X. Ayatollah Khomeini, X. Who's next? If you don't play ball and you don't negotiate and you don't make a deal, I mean, this is pure power politics, okay? If nothing else, and we can debate and discuss all the details. I'm just talking at the strategic level, power politics. This is power politics in the likes of Thucydides from the Peloponnesian War in ancient Greece, right? When he said, the strong do what they can, the weak suffer what they must. Okay, this is real politique. This is power politics at its purest form, okay? Where we get what we want, we form a deal, you play ball in some way, shape, or form, and if you don't, we have not just a cost-imposing strategy, but we use coercion. We use strength and power against you to get what we want, okay? So this is pure power politics right here. It's probably the most unabashed use of U.S. force in a long time, maybe ever, okay? So this is definitely changing the global leadership landscape, and we're going to see how things go. But let's get through this and let's talk about it. I'll do my best to answer your question, guys. I've got a question here, setting the stage for us to be hit at home. You're probably right on Secure Signal, no doubt about it. I'm sure they're going to do everything they can to do something, right? But we've already been hit at home multiple times, but it was by a different group, Al Qaeda, who are Sunni, right? These are Shia. Iran is the base of Shia Islam, the Sunni. Al Qaeda, and I can't even say that they're Sunni. They're like psychopaths, right? They're real wackos. So, anyway, okay, going to the gym. I don't know, man. Flying Arrow says I'm just trying to stay around like-minded folks. I appreciate you, man. Appreciate you, Flying Arrow. Go hit the gym, brother. Let's see here. I had a question. Do we think it's necessary? Propaganda saying, I'd like to know who it was necessary for the U.S. Okay, so propaganda, answer your question. I'll do my best with this, okay? I think when we say is it necessary, you have to look at let me start with what forms a threat, okay? A threat is formed by capability plus intention to use it, okay? So is Iran a threat? And if you're the leader of the country, and you got to think, if I have intelligence, I want you to put yourself in the shoes of being the strategic commander of the U.S. or of any country. You're in charge. All these people are counting on you. Number one responsibility of a leader of a country or of a business leader of anybody is to protect the physical security of your people, okay? For example, we were looking at the nightclub in, I think, Switzerland, where those 30 or 60 kids got burned alive, got killed partying. The owner of the nightclub's number one responsibility was first and foremost safety of all those kids coming to party, to be patrons of his location and have a fun time, okay? He failed in that, and they were all burned to death. And it came to find out they had multiple warnings and, they could have fixed things, all stuff like that, and it could have been better, right? They only had one exit. They should have had multiple fire exits, blah, 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 blah. So if you're the leader of anything, your number one thing is physical security and safety of your people, okay? So if you get indications and warning, credible intelligence that says, hey, they're doing it again. They're getting enrichment, right? They're getting enriching uranium to the point where it could be weapons grade. They already have delivery technology. Iran had some of the best ballistic missiles, should I say, in the world, in the region for sure. They were the ballistic missile leader in the region. So in the world stage, maybe top 10, I don't know. Okay. But enough that they could touch people. They could touch people in Europe. They could touch people in the Middle East. They could touch assets of the United States, interests of the United States, citizens, partners, allies, innocent people. They could do a lot of stuff. Definitely our military bases. Now, if you get a country to be able to deliver a nuclear weapon, if they get nuclear grade material, enriched uranium, and you have intelligence saying that they have this, the intention's already there. They have bad intent already. You already know they hate you. You already know they would love to do nothing more than challenge you, destroy you, whatever, okay, if they could. Then you as a leader have to make a decision. And what you want to make a decision is the action you take has to be suitable to the threat. So to me, destroying the enrichment facilities seems, and again, I'm using my best judgment, justified and justifiable. It is justifiable because you're attacking a capability which attacks the number one core vital interest of the United States or of any country, okay? And so, look, Russia has never said, and maybe I'm wrong by saying never, I don't recall Russia saying, we're going to strike the United States with nuclear weapons. If they said that, it's a game changer. The intention's clear, and Russia has the capability to do it. They wouldn't say that. They might hint at it because Putin's smart. He knows we already have a significant capability. If I merely mention the intention, it's going to change the calculus in Trump's mind and all of leaders' minds, okay? So as a leader, you have to think their intention is bad already, and they're struggling to get capability. We smashed it once. We said, don't rebuild it. Okay, we didn't go in there and we didn't kill the Ayatollah. We didn't topple the regime in Operation Midnight Hammer. But here they go again, doing it again, right? I'm just saying, as a leader, if you got some kids down the street, they came in, vandalized your car, they beat up your family, maybe someone got stabbed, okay? And you go down there and retaliate, you beat them up. You're like, okay, get out of here. We beat you up. I'm not gonna pull out my gun, but we beat you guys up and we put a couple of you in jail, and then they get out. And words on the street, they're coming again to do the same stuff to you. What do you do? So what I'm saying is, you got, as a leader, because I've been there, where you're on the dime. Right now, we're all being, we're watching, and we're paying attention, right? We're backseat driving, we're armchair quarterbacking, all this stuff like that, and we should, because we're voters, right? This is our country. If you're an American citizen, I know we have some international folks here too, but that's what I'm saying is that you got to look at the credibility, the threat. A threat is intention plus capability. They have the intention, bad actor, bad intention. If they have the capability, will they use it? Can you take the chance that they would use it? Can you take the chance as a leader that they would use it? Okay, well, now what do? You decide, okay, I can't take that chance, so I need to strike. What do? You do limited strikes on facilities, keep away from population centers. Again, we're going to see what the collateral damage is. I'm not naive to think that we're not going to be collateral damage. But this is the calculus. You reduce as much as possible the chance for collateral damage. Use precision strikes, precision weapons. These are, I don't know what, $30 million missiles. The aircraft are flying, stealth technology, precision guidance, intelligence, all this stuff like that, right? AI infused into everything to make sure we minimize collateral damage and we remove the capability. And now we're removing the intention, which means the regime. We're changing. This is the idea, I believe, is changing the intention, the mindset. Okay. So that's where I'm at with that. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay. Hopefully that answers the question. Okay. Let's keep on rolling. So we see some of the sites of the strikes where things were hit. Iran's retaliatory strikes now. They've hit Israel several times, Jordan, Iraq, Kuwait, Bahrain. These are all U.S., either Israeli or U.S. bases, right? That's where they're striking. Their range is out to 497 miles. This is the range rings we see around there, okay? In Jordan, officials said the military shot down 2 ballistic missiles fired from Iran. Saudi foreign minister said Iran targeted Riyadh and other sites in the east. Israel's military said Iran launched several missiles into Israel and was using anti-missile systems to repel them. What weapons does Iran have? U.S. bases in neighboring countries are well within reach of Iran's arsenal of short-term, medium-range missiles. Okay, they have the Hajj Qasem missile. They've got the Kali Sheikhan family, the Ghadar family. Okay, so they have the range is 800 miles. This big one, the Ghadar family, is 1,200 miles max range, and then 1,000 miles. So if we look at this, they can range well beyond this range ring. This is 497 miles on this concentric ring. So it's basically double that. They can cover the whole region with some of these things. Their smallest missile has no problem hitting all those areas. Okay, and they also have drones too, lots of drones. All right. Good question. How did we get here? In May 2018, Trump withdrew the U.S. from the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, an international agreement designed to limit Iran's nuclear program in exchange for easing economic sanctions. Trump said the pact, known as the Iran deal, was flawed and did not do enough to prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons. U.S. sanctions were later imposed on Iran. Iran began ignoring the deal's provisions and accumulating low-enriched uranium, according to a July 19th report. Okay, so that's part of the reason that we pulled out of that. Okay, there's Tehran, and you can see where the enrichment facilities are, missile facilities. So this kind of gives you an idea. When you see this, you see the strike sites, right, around Tehran, these red dots. Okay, when we look at these red dots around Tehran, okay, and then you go here, and you can see this is what they're hitting. Service headquarters, nuclear facility, drone facilities, air bases, all these different things, okay? And again, one more time, I'll go back and forth there. So to the west of Tehran, all right, there's Tehran. You see where all the strikes are, right? The red strikes. And then we go back here. Okay, and you see this stuff here, okay? You see all the things there. Drone bases, air bases, military bases, missile facility, oil refineries. I don't think we're going to hit an oil refinery, but definitely service headquarters, defense facilities, military bases, missile facilities, nuclear sites, all these things like that, okay? All right, let's watch some more of the videos, go a little more in depth. I'll try to answer any questions you guys have so we can figure out what's going on, why is it happening, what's going to happen next is a big thing, okay? And that's going to be important as well, figuring out what's going to happen next. Okay, here's some of the retaliatory strikes from Iran. Let's see.
We want to go right back to NBC's chief international correspondent, Keir Simmons, joining us from Dubai. And Keir, it does seem like this regional war that you spoke about a short time ago is beginning to take shape.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure whether we would describe it at the level of war quite yet, but certainly what the Arab countries, the Gulf countries, America's allies and partners feared might come to pass is happening. I mean, there's no question of that. There are reports across this region in the Gulf of attacks on countries that, as I say, are allied to or partners of the United States. Just to give you a little bit of that reporting, I'm here in the UAE. I just spoke to an official about reports that there may have been some sort of explosion around Abu Dhabi, the governmental capital of the UAE. That official told me that they hadn't seen anything at this stage. So we're just trying to work to establish whether or not those reports are true. When it comes to Bahrain, as Matt and Richard and Courtney were mentioning, I've spoken to an official in Bahrain who tells me that there have been strikes there. That's, of course, the location, as we've been saying, of the US Fifth Fleet, close to Manama, the capital there. That's where, just for example, the importance of that base, that's where the USS Lincoln, which is now likely taking part in this operation in the Arabian Sea, that's where the USS Lincoln was just a few weeks ago, that aircraft carrier. So certainly something has gone down, if you like, in Bahrain. As Richard mentioned, Kuwait too, there were reports from there. Qatar is saying that it has intercepted 2 Iranian missiles over the country. So what we saw with Qatar, now just to put this in perspective, how significant this is, last year, around the time of the 12-day war in Operation Midnight Hammer, President Trump's operation targeting the Iranian nuclear program, it was only Qatar that faced Iranian missiles. And what did happen there, just to help people understand what they might be hearing and seeing, what did happen there was that air defenses brought down shrapnel around Doha. It wasn't the actual, at least in some cases, it wasn't the actual missiles landing. It was the defenses working, if you like. And all of these places have US air defenses, Patriot air defenses, because there are US bases in every one of these places. Al Udeid in Qatar, for example, I've been there. It's a sprawling base with a large number of US servicemen and women. It is the headquarters of CENTCOM.
All right, let's take a look at this really quickly because he's talking about, I've been to a lot of these places too, okay? So I figure, I'm never someone to act like, oh, look at me, where I've been, what I've done. But, I think it serves here. So let's talk about this. Try to find, I believed I had a picture of some of these places. Okay, yeah. So I've been to a lot of these places here. So I've been to Crete. I've been to UAE, I've been to Bahrain, I've been to Qatar, I've been to Kuwait, I've been to Iraq, I've been to a lot of these places, okay? And so a lot of these sites, U.S. military sites, aircraft sites, naval sites, things like that. So I've been to a fair amount of them. And I will say, some of these are really big. I talked about it last night, like, Qatar has significant infrastructure. Bahrain's the same, UAE the same. But, Qatar has like a major air base there as well, too. So the U.S. has assets there to protect its assets, its bases, and also to protect its partners there as well, too, from, attacks coming because of the U.S. forces there. But, to his point, Iran is conducting these retaliatory strikes. And let's watch a little bit more of that. I think he's got a lot of good things to say. And guys, if you had to answer the poll yet, I put a poll in. Should we even be doing this? Should we have attacked Iran? I just want to get a pulse on what you guys think. And again, I appreciate any support, and I appreciate your support. You guys being here. Let's go.
And it has been a target in the past, but for the Iranians, and it may be that this was what the Iranians are trying to do today as well. But as I say, on that occasion, they intercepted it with Patriots, and it looks like maybe they're saying that they managed to do that again. There's a base here in the UAE, Al Afra. In every one of these countries, there are US bases. And one of the questions I think now is going to be whether the Iranians are specifically targeting those bases rather than other parts of these countries. And that, again, is something that we can't know. But every one of those bases are well defended. So as we hear about these explosions, and there is enormous tension here, I have to tell you. People are very worried. As we hear about this, we're going to have to figure out whether it is the system working, if you like, or whether any Iranian munitions have got through.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.
Let's check this out.
Ago, we got the first alert.
Right, here we go.
Security correspondent Jennifer Griffin. She's at the Pentagon. Good morning, Jennifer.
Good morning.
Okay, before she kicks this off, let's go into some more facts and figures here, okay? So Iran's retaliation. We're talking about that right now, okay? We're seeing like what's happening out there. Don't think for a second that Iran is just sitting still, right? They're getting hammered, but the IRGC is dug in. They're there. That's why Trump is saying, President Trump saying, you have to surrender, lay down your arms, or we're going to dial you in and pound you as well too. So I think that's a key thing, is that the IRGC is still there. They still have the means to strike back, and they're doing so. Okay. They launched a massive wave of ballistic missiles and drone strikes. They're targeting U.S. bases in Qatar, Al Udeid, Bahrain, and Kuwait. The regional fallout right now, airspace around the Middle East is slammed shut Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE are on high alert as interceptions light up the night sky over Tel Aviv and Dubai. Dubai, like we said. The cost, tragically, we're hearing reports of civilian casualties on both sides, including a strike on a school in southern Iran. Okay, we're hearing that. Hopefully it's not true. This is, like we talked about last night, right? This is kind of the monster that comes out of the box when you release war, right? War is chaotic, it's uncertain, and casualties happen, right? And unfortunately, it's a terrible thing. But hopefully we can minimize. They will minimize any collateral damage like that or civilian casualties. Terrible. So we're going to be monitoring this over the next few hours. But let's talk a little bit about the military breakdown and what's been involved so far. So aircraft, 200 fighter jets have been involved, including U.S. F-35s, F-22s, F-15s, F-16s, along with the Israeli Adder F-35I, B-2 Spirit stealth bombers, also for doing deep penetration strikes. Naval power, the U.S. has had a massive armada in the region, okay? The largest since 2003, 2 aircraft carriers, 13 large surface combatants. Over 10,000 additional service members were in the region in February specifically for this. So Airstrikes, Israel confirmed its jets are striking dozens of high-value military targets in Iran and Tehran, Isfahan, Qom, Karaj, and Kermanshah. So that's where we sit right now. They're saying that leadership military, at least 600 Iranians are estimated killed in the initial wave. The Ali Shamkrani, the Secretary of the Supreme National Security Council, is reported killed as well, too. In Israel, 3 civilians have been killed, 89 injured from attacks, I believe. And then also it says that between 57 and 85 civilians were killed in a strike in southern Iran. Okay. Let's keep on rolling here and get through some of this and try to figure out what's going on all the way and then what's coming next.
Hi, Lawrence. I'm here in the D.C. Bureau, but I just want to point out that almost exactly 5 hours ago, we got the first alert that the Israeli missiles and the U.S. missiles had struck Iran. It was a joint operation from the get-go. I'm told that this operation will last not hours, but days. This is an open-ended operation with a wide variety of targets. I'm told from a senior U.S. military official that the U.S. is focusing on military targets, on ballistic missile sites, on anything that could pose an immediate threat on the Iranian Navy. But the Israelis are targeting Iran's leadership. So any of the targets that you hear about the Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei being targeted, the defense minister being targeted, those are being carried out by the Israelis. Let me mention some of the targets that we know were hit this morning in Tehran: the Defense Ministry, the Parliament, the National Supreme Council, the Ministry of Intelligence, the Iranian Atomic Energy Agency. There have been cyber attacks across Iran, and the internet is not up and working, but the cyber attacks have focused on the news agencies like IRNA, which is the state-run television. The U.S. military has also targeted down in the south the naval bases in Bandar Abbas as well as in Kark Island. And then what's also interesting is out in the east of Iran, there's a target near Tabriz and Kermanshah, which is the IRGC aerospace forces. That's significant because that's where they would have been developing those long-range ballistic missiles, satellites that also could have been part of that intercontinental.
Okay, let's switch this over really fast. Let's look at what she's talking about here. Okay, so we have a few of these. Okay, so she's saying down in the south. Here's Bandar Abbas down here. Okay. Bandar Abbas is where this is their naval base down here. You see how close Dubai is, right? Guys, give me a 1 in the chat if you're tracking on this, if you can see this, where how close Dubai is to Iran, actually. Okay, and the Straits of Hormuz right here, this choke point. Give me a 1 in the chat if you're tracking along on this, okay? Okay, because I want to make sure I'm not going too fast explaining everything in the right pace here. So Bandar Abbas is here, a naval base, but there's also a nuclear facility, uranium mine and mining facility. Okay. All right. I appreciate you, Mark. And so they said there's a strike down south here. That is very close to Dubai. I think I didn't even realize. I've been to Dubai a bunch of times. I've been to Qatar. I've been to UAE. Never been to Iran. But I didn't even realize, honestly, sometimes how close. Guess I'm not going to Dubai anytime soon. Not going to happen. So very, very close. Okay, thanks, Jay. Appreciate it, Mark. Thank you, the Diamond Dog. So that's where she's talking about down south, this nuclear facility that was struck at Bandar Abbas down here, right near Dubai, right near the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, and this is that choke point, a very strategic choke point, Straits of Hormuz, where oil flows through the Persian Gulf. Okay, because you have Kuwait, you have Saudi Arabia, you have all these things out there, all these countries out there, oil-producing countries, OPEC, right? Flowing oil through, and Iran really controls the Straits of Hormuz. Well, the U.S. Navy controls the Straits of Hormuz, actually, but Iran has always threatened them. Okay, and it's been a real threat strategically for the global economy and the flow of oil. All right, let's go back here and keep watching. Here we go.
Continental ballistic missile program that they were trying to develop that the president referenced. But the biggest problem right now is the stockpile of cruise missiles and ballistic missiles that the Iranians built up since last summer, because they were terribly degraded last summer in the 12-day war. But they have been working to rebuild that missile supply. We're seeing some of those missiles being fired at Israel. As Trey reported, they have, for the most part, been intercepted by the air defenses. But of all of the U.S. military bases in the Gulf, the only country where U.S. bases were not targeted this morning is Oman. And of course, Oman's foreign minister had been leading and mediating those talks in Geneva, and then came here to Washington to lobby Vice President J.D. Vance to try and avert what we've seen happening in the last 5 hours, and which is basically turning into a regional conflict. But there have been interceptions. The Qatari government has intercepted missiles fired toward U.S. base, the Al Udeid Air Base, the largest air base in the Middle East. That's a U.S. base. Then in Bahrain, we did see one missile land, but I'm told that there are no casualties.
All right, this is a great little map right here for us to talk about for a second. Again, Straits of Hormuz, you see that there. If you missed it last time, there's Iran, there's Turkey, there's Iraq, Saudi Arabia. Again, big oil producers, right? Kuwait is in here, hidden somewhere. Long-term military bases operating near Iran are all the green dots. The white dots are other military bases with a U.S. military presence, okay, all around the region. Iran's basically trying to, in its regime's death throes, trying to strike whatever it can right now, okay? So they are striking out with ballistic missiles, all these different things. And again, a really good map to take a look at right here. Let's keep on rolling.
And it hit an empty warehouse. So we are getting increasing reports. This is ongoing. But I'll throw it back to you at this point.
Jennifer, you had mentioned that we are there. The U.S. is focused on the ballistic missiles and Israel's focusing on the leadership. What about an Operation Midnight Hammer? That happened in the middle of the night there. This did not. It was daylight there. Will you talk about the significance? And also, are we focused on...
Okay, interesting tidbit that she just said. She said that the U.S. is focusing on facilities. So think about this in terms of, moral justification. Think about this in terms of suitability for what is acceptable for U.S. citizens, for the U.S. base, okay, for the political base, for the administration as well, too, and just for American citizens in general. We are focusing on facilities and on nuclear weapons, legal justifications. Think about this, okay? So as we're talking about in the chat, justification, should we do this, should we not do it? And then they said the U.S. is focusing on facilities. Israel, okay, is actually focusing on people. Leadership. They're striking leadership, trying to kill them. I think Ayatollah Khomeini, if the Ayatollah is dead, I believe it was the Israeli strike that did it, based on what they're saying right now. Okay, so this is news to me. That's why I'm talking about it. So true to what word President Trump has been saying and what Marco Rubio has said in the past, according to what I can recall right now, that we are striking facilities, going after the nuclear enrichment, uranium enrichment facilities, all those things like that. Does that mean we're not striking personnel and targets out there? No, it doesn't mean that. When they say focusing on, we are focusing on this, right? That means the majority of our effort is going towards facilities, weapons, systems, things like that. Okay. Of course, we're still going after leadership too. But I think Israel, also because they have a lot smaller force, is focusing exclusively on the leadership, according to what they're just saying right now. Okay. Makes sense. Also, an aside on this, not even aside, an important point is that Israel does not have the ability to deliver those bunker buster bombs that can actually destroy the nuclear facilities. So there's the key point. Capability. Again, they don't even have the capability to deliver those. So only the U.S. does.
Going after the rebuilding of the nuclear program there, where we targeted before. Going after the rebuilding of the nuclear program there, where we targeted before with Operation Hammer.
I think what we've seen so far, Ainsley, is that there are some nuclear targets that have been included. We've seen explosions in Bushehr. There's a nuclear reactor there. There's a site near Qom, which is just south of Tehran, that we know to be linked to the nuclear program. We haven't heard yet that there have been strikes on the 3 sites that were struck last summer. But it is likely that there will be strikes on those sites because the Iranians have been rebuilding. There's been activity seen through satellite imagery of vehicles outside of Natanz, Isfahan, and Fordo. So I would expect those would be struck again, but I also would expect the kind of weapons that maybe would strike that would be delivered by a B-2 bomber. And we have not seen evidence that the B-2s have been engaged in this first line of attacks. In terms of the daylight and choosing the daylight, after last summer, it was very important to be able to still have some element of surprise. And unfortunately, given the open source intelligence these days, the amount of satellites, the ship spotters, the flight trackers, it's very hard for the U.S. military to move without people seeing what their assets are doing. So I think by striking during the day, there was an element of surprise. It's Ramadan. And I think
Well, I guess that answers our question last night. Would we strike during Ramadan? Well, we did it, right? Remember when I said last night, I said the founder of our country, our first president, General George Washington, President Washington, okay, attacked on his own major religious holiday, Christmas Eve. He went and crossed the Potomac River, the freezing Potomac River. And if you ever watch Shane Gillis's depiction of this, his reenactment, okay, a 6'4" red-haired guy with wooden teeth and a sword saying, and going and attacking the German mercenaries, okay, across the river, working for the British and killing them. Like killing them, I don't know if it was down to a man, but killing them until they would surrender, right? Attacking them and killing them. So, yeah, we did it. Yeah, warfare, element of surprise. And so they'd use daylight this time because they didn't think they'd do it in the daytime. And again, to her point about being able to track everything, look at here we are. Look at this. Look at this map I have, interactive map from the International Institute of Strategic Studies, right? Here's a map of all the strikes that happened. You know, we have other maps of U.S. forces and where they are, right? You know, here's another one. Where are the facilities? What kind of weapons? Look at strikes that have already taken place. Look at the satellite imagery. That's not government run, right? This is like civilian imagery out there that you can access through the internet. Okay. All right, let's keep on going here.
Those initial strikes targeting, one of the first strikes was targeting Iran's supreme leader's compound, Ali Khamenei, who has been the leader of Iran since 1989. If you can imagine, he's the longest serving leader in the Middle East. His compound was targeted, and I think they probably wanted to lure the Iranian leadership into some bit of complacency and assuming that they would be home or in their offices during daylight hours. It also is a sign that they feel pretty confident that they control the air above Iran and that the air defense systems are not as strong as they were last summer. They were degraded quite a bit in the 12-day war. Obviously, they can't take any chances, and I would suspect that a lot of these initial strikes were carried out by Tomahawk missiles from Navy warships that are based in the Arabian Sea. There are a lot of destroyers there attached to the U.S. Abraham Lincoln. and USS Abraham Lincoln. And then also, I would expect standoff weapons from warplanes that might be able to fire weapons that can fire without being in Iranian airspace while they see whether that air defense system is still working.
Jennifer, when you look at Midnight Hammer, okay, middle of the night, got it, was a quick operation, and then after 12 days, it was done. It might be interesting that you start at 8 in the morning local time. Maybe by the time it gets dark, they're out of power. And then we really can light up the skies. And we could take down there with cyber attacks and with physical attacks, various operations. You think that could be part of the battle plan?
I think what we're going to see are rolling operations. And I think that what we see tonight will probably light up the skies, as you said.
Again, if you're just joining us right now, we are talking about Operation Epic Fury, the U.S. and Israeli airstrikes into Iran to do regime change, number one, and also to destroy the nuclear capability in Iran. Again, this has been building up for a while. We've been talking about this, all the facts. There's quite an armada, a raid out there, the largest since 2003. And the scale of this armada, 2 carrier strike groups, over 200 jets, it's a clear signal of overwhelming force. This isn't a surgical slap on the wrist, as we know. It's an effort to decapitate the regime's command and control. From what we know right now, according to Israeli intelligence, again, that the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, is assessed that it's highly likely he was killed in the opening wave of strikes. Sources describe the chances of his survival as slim to non-existent. And satellite imagery confirmed that the supreme leader's fortified compound in downtown Tehran sustained heavy damage and is seen with rising black smoke. A Turkish journalist, Levant Kemal, cited sources within Iran citing Khamenei was seriously injured and may now be dead. So that's actually on the ground. Turkish journalist with sources in Iran said he was probably dead after being seriously injured in the attack. Now, Iran is denying this, saying that Khamenei's representative in India and Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi have both issued denials, saying that all high-ranking officials are alive, as far as I know. Okay. Now, there's a bunker narrative from Iran as well, too, that the 86-year-old leader was moved to a secure location before the strikes and will speak to the people soon. However, Israeli analysts suggest any upcoming broadcast may be pre-recorded to hide his true condition. So we have all of that going on as well, too. Put any questions you guys have in the chat.
But this first phase was targeting Iran's leadership, their top leaders, the head of the IRGC. We don't have the battle damage assessment, and we don't have confirmation of those deaths yet. But that, again, the Israeli military has been responsible for that targeting. But I think you're right, Brian, that when it's dark, there are going to be different targets, different weapon systems used. But
guys, if you have not voted in our poll yet, please vote in the poll. I want to get a pulse on where we're at with this. And welcome. If you're new here, welcome. We have the best chat in YouTube. It's been said by many people, not me, just me. I believe it is as well, too. You got the best people here. You can debate, you can discuss, you can disagree, you can agree, you can have fun, all those things like that. But everybody's really cool in the chat. It's the best chat on YouTube. So welcome. Please subscribe, like, and share this. If you think someone's going to get something out of this, we're doing a deep dive right now. And then I will go live again later on today as well, too. I have to actually do my live coaching session for my Ferocious Optimist group coaching membership and community is going at 6 p.m. Eastern time today. So if you're not a member of my membership and community, please go ahead and join. You're going to get a live private Zoom call today with our community, Q&A afterwards as well, too. But I digress. Let's get back to this. Welcome. Please like, subscribe, and share. Great to have you here. We got the best chat on YouTube. You guys are awesome. And please vote in the poll. Let's keep on going here.
There are going to be different targets, different weapon systems used. But in daylight hours, I would almost guarantee that there were a lot of Tomahawks used.
All right. Jennifer Griffin, thank you so much for your reporting.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
Okay. Now, I'm going to ask you guys a sensitive question. This one's going to be sensitive. I already know, I have an idea of what it's going to be, but I might be wrong. I don't know. I could be wrong. So, Actually, I'm a new take with people in the chat right now. I called this last night in my live stream. Last night, I called that we were going to go to war with Iran. We were going to attack Iran today. And I said it was going to be 3 or 4 a.m. I was wrong about that. It was 8 a.m. Iran time, which actually is about 11 p.m. I think 11 p.m. U.S. time. I think so. Yeah, it's about a 9-hour difference from the East Coast. Okay, 11 p.m. East Coast time. So I thought it would have been a few hours later East Coast time. Or actually, it would have been a few hours earlier in Iran, like 4 a.m., 3 a.m., I thought. Okay. So anyway, they went out of the playbook and they went daytime attack because they thought it was an element of surprise because we always do nighttime attacks. This time they did it in the daytime, as they said, because there's so many different monitoring services of U.S. forces and aircraft, things like that. They just thought it was the right thing to do to go in the daytime. And obviously, it's happening ongoing right now. So far, it is getting the results that they want, I believe. All right. So put in the chat right now if you thought, did you see this coming? Put a 1 in the chat if you thought the U.S. would attack Iran this weekend. Put a 0 in the chat if you didn't think it would happen. Now, I know everybody who's here last night, you guys already voted once, but vote again just because it's good. It's good for me. I want to see, where people's heads were at, if this was a real surprise or not so much of a surprise. And if you're watching right now, please vote in the poll as well, too. I have a poll right now. Should the U.S. have attacked Iran? Get your vote in there. Right now, we are split 50-50. 24 votes. We are 50-50. Okay. It's been up for about 26 minutes, but we have a lot more people watching than the number of votes we have. So please vote. We're at 50-50 right now. So we need some tiebreakers in there. All right. Unsecure signal. You saw it coming. Okay. Got it. Okay. Jimmy Johns, you saw it too. Got it. All right, put your vote in there, guys. Vote in the poll, and then also put a 1 if you saw this coming this weekend, and put a 0 if you didn't see it coming. And let's keep on rolling here.
Explosions rocked multiple cities across Iran, including its capital, Tehran. Videos from Tehran show smoke. You see it here billowing over the city. And now we're getting reports of explosions in Gulf Arab countries hosting U.S. military bases. Live look now at Abu Dhabi, where explosions were reported, in addition to Bahrain and Qatar. A video now of an explosion in Bahrain. Officials say a missile hit the service center of the U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet in the country. These strikes happened barely a day after the latest round of indirect nuclear talks between Iran and the U.S. And sources tell CNN the U.S. military is planning for these attacks to last for days. Israel said the same, and both President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu are now calling for regime change.
To the great, proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. Stay sheltered. Don't leave your home. It's very dangerous outside. Bombs will be dropping everywhere. When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. This will be probably your only chance for generations.
Iran media reported just hours ago that Iran already launched dozens of ballistic missiles at Israel. And Qatari officials say that Qatar already intercepted 2 Iranian missiles, indicating Iran is carrying out that plan to retaliate. And our team is up and covering this breaking story from around the world. We'll get to Zach Cohen and Elena Treen in just a moment. But I want to start with CNN's Jeremy Diamond first. He's in Tel Aviv. Jeremy, have any of the Iron Dome intercepted any of those missiles? Is there a timing on when those might arrive?
Well, we certainly know that Iran has already fired a barrage of ballistic missiles at Israel. We had sirens going off, not only here in Tel Aviv, but also in Jerusalem.
Okay, guys, so we talked about this last night a bit, about the Iron Dome, okay, and what it consists of. And so to understand this, Iron Dome has 3 circles around Tel Aviv, okay? It's got, the first is the Iron Dome. The second is David's Sling. The third is the Arrow System, okay? And this is designed to prevent, any oncoming ballistic missiles from Iran, largely to protect Israel. And so, but you have to understand that this takes 600 to 800 missiles per concentric circle to protect them, okay? And so, let's see. I want to take a look at this. I think I've got a good, all right, got a good little thing here I can pull up for you guys. All right, so here's Iron Dome, right? Defending Israel. So Iron Dome, first of all, right here. Patriot missiles in the Iron Dome in this first circle. The second circle is David's sling. Okay, and the third circle is the Arrow system, all designed to defend Israel from the oncoming missiles from Tehran. Okay, but you have to understand, this takes like 600 to 800 missiles per concentric circle to defend it. So when Iran launches these barrages, Israel's firing up tons of missiles to stop them. And the whole thought process is, can Israel last long enough can they withstand several days of barrages before they're totally left exposed and vulnerable? Okay, not just to Iran, but by other actors in the region that might have the idea or the plan to strike. Okay, and so that's why a lot of times you'll see a strike from Iran, and then you see diplomatic negotiations, strike from Iran, diplomatic negotiations, or the U.S. getting involved. Okay, because when they go Winchester, we say Winchester in the military, when you're out of ammo, you're out of Schlitz, you can't fight anymore. Okay, when you go Winchester and you're conditioned black on ammo, right? We have green, yellow, red, black. There's nothing left. Okay, when they go Winchester, they're emptying their magazines in this Iron Dome, the first circle here, okay, in the second circle, in the third circle, okay? When they go Winchester, that's bad news. Israel can be wiped out because Iran has, again, the most comprehensive, biggest, largest, highest quantity of ballistic missiles in the whole region, okay? So that's why it's a serious concern there. Let's go back to this video now and hear a little bit more of what's happening. I think it's important we really take a look at this and deep dive into it. Put your questions in the chat, guys, and give me a one in the chat. Give me a one in the chat if you think that Israel is going to run out of ammo in its Iron Dome due to these attacks. Because Iran, I don't think, is going to stop sending the missiles unless they totally get decapitated and all command and control is destroyed. I don't know. But put a one in the chat if you think Israel is going to run out of missiles defending itself. Give me a one in the chat if you think the Iron Dome will run dry of ammunition. We'll go Winchester in its attempts to defend itself against Iran's missiles. I want to see where we're at. I think it's possible.
At Israel, we had sirens going off not only here in Tel Aviv, but also in Jerusalem, in northern Israel, in southern Israel, pretty much Israelis everywhere across the country, millions heading to bomb shelters as those ballistic missiles came in. It does appear that there were several intercepts. We have not yet gotten reports of any actual impacts as a result of those ballistic missiles. But all of this kicked off this morning around 8:15 a.m. local time. Israelis were woken to the sound of sirens, not announcing incoming missiles.
Cody Fisher, tell us how you really feel. I couldn't help it. All right, let's keep going.
But rather alerting Israelis to this new state of emergency that is in place as Israel announced that it had struck targets in Iran. We then quickly learned that it was not just Israel, but that these are joint strikes carried out by the United States and the Israeli militaries, targeting a range of targets inside of Iran. I'm told that there were dozens of targets that were struck by both militaries. We have been watching, of course, for weeks now as the United States has been carrying out this enormous military buildup in the region, but simultaneously a diplomatic track was taking place. But this morning, that diplomatic track was completely cast aside in favor of this military action by the United States and Israel. We heard from President Trump making clear that this is not just about going after Iran's ballistic missile and nuclear programs, but setting the conditions for regime change. And we have heard similar comments as well from the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. We know now that Israel is at a very heightened state of awareness. Most Israelis are either in their bomb shelters or very close by, awaiting the ramifications of this, as we are already watching Iran launch missiles not only here, but at other sites across the Middle East. Victor?
Jeremy Diamond for us there in Tel Aviv. We will get back to you in just a few moments. President Trump is monitoring the strikes from his Mar-a-Lago resort, and he calls on Iranians to stand up to their government and warns the fight could put American lives in danger. He also says the U.S. has done everything it can to keep American troops safe in the region. Earlier, President Trump explained the mission behind the operation.
All right, guys, we watched this video a little bit earlier. I'm going to keep going here for a second. Hold on, let's put this up.
Our
here.
objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime, a vicious group.
Let me ask you guys in the chat. Put a 1 in the chat if you think Iran formed an imminent threat to the American people. Put a 1 in the chat if you thought the Iranian regime formed an imminent threat to the American people. And I know you're putting your name next to it. I know it takes some moral courage. You could say no. You could say yes. Again, our chat is very cool. We can have our own ideas, our own opinions. We're not going to lash out. We're not going to attack anybody, blast anybody. We don't do that here, okay? This is a collegial chat. We have good debates, good discussions. We all learn together. I know what I know. You guys know what you know. We try to learn and grow together, all right? So, but put a 1 in the chat if you thought Iran forms, or did form, not anymore probably, an imminent threat to the American people, as President Trump is saying. Just put a 1 here. And again, you can have an informed opinion or an uninformed opinion, and that's okay. It's just good for us to have an idea. Okay, 0. We got a 0 there from Jimmy John's. All right. Okay, let's just keep going. We'll watch a little bit more of this.
Of very hard, terrible people. Its menacing activities directly endanger the United States, our troops, our bases overseas, and our allies throughout the world. For 47 years, the Iranian regime has chanted death to America and waged an unending campaign of bloodshed and mass murder, targeting the United States, our troops, and the innocent people in many, many countries.
All right, let's bring in CNN's Elena Treen. She's reporting from Palm Beach, Florida. Elena, the president said on Friday that he was not happy with where the talks were with Iran, and now we're seeing the consequences of that.
Absolutely. And I think you're right to point out that the context of all of this is incredibly important. We had been hearing of Victor in recent days, really in the lead up until these strikes this morning, the president saying that he wanted diplomacy. He was hoping a deal could be reached. And from all the conversations I had with people at the White House, that was sincere. But of course, at the same time, you saw the Trump administration and the president directly order the most massive military buildup in the region since essentially the 2003 war with Iraq. And so that leverage was there. And I think a lot of people were waiting to see whether the president would move on that. And of course, he did. I also found it very remarkable just to see the president in that video statement, giving it and releasing it on social media, having that be the.
Well, I'll tell you, that's very interesting. It's interesting. And for me, it's reassuring. Because again, I try to play different news outlets. I try not just to play Fox. I try not just to play CNN. I try not just to play, I use international, BBC. I use different news outlets because I think they each have a different take, right? They each have a different lens. And so we try to get the most accurate picture that we can of what's going on. And here's CNN. She's saying that it was sincere. It's sincere to get a negotiated diplomatic agreement. But, the thing is, at the same time, they're moving all of and I shouldn't say but, and at the same time, not but, and at the same time, moving all of this leverage, all this military assets in the region. Here's the point, okay? When you negotiate, you have to look at what is your best alternative to the negotiated agreement. We talked about this last night. And so when you have an armada off the coast, out your window, basically, when you're negotiating and saying, look, it's either the carrot or the stick. Which one do you want? If you really don't have a stick, you have no negotiating power, right? Either you do this or this happens, right? If you do this, you get all the benefits, so on and so forth. If not, the stick comes out. But if you don't have a stick, you can't really have a credible negotiation. And so this is pretty normal for strategic negotiations as they go to do that. But for me, hearing it from from CNN as well too, they're not always friendly to President Trump, obviously. And I shouldn't say friendly. They're not always. They tend to point out a lot of his flaws. Let's put it that way, okay? As accurately as I can. And to hear them say it was sincere from everything they know and they've seen, that he wanted a negotiated agreement. That for me is reassuring. Okay. Again, this is definitely not easy stuff to do or to hear, or to see, but it was good to hear that point from her. Let's keep going here.
the way that he delivered it. But look, there's a couple things I took away, Victor, from those remarks from the president. One is that he said that this is going to be a massive and ongoing operations. And that comes as sources are telling our colleague Zach Cohen and I that the United States is planning for there to be several attacks or several days of attacks. This is going to be a long operation and could ultimately be the largest military operation the president has ever overseen, including during his first term. But another moment that I found very striking as well is that he essentially and effectively called for regime change in Iran. The president said in those remarks, quote, "When we are finished, take over your government." That was a message directly to the Iranian people. "It will be yours to take. This will probably be your only chance for generations." That is a huge statement, particularly as really over the past year or so, ever since the president went into office for his second term, all of his top advisors were trying not to say that directly. And even though the president didn't say it directly, he came as close as he ever really has to acknowledging that one of the goals in this larger operation is to potentially see if the Iranian people can use this weakened state that the regime now finds itself in to kind of overthrow and push against the government there. So that was a remarkable thing as well. I also think it's worth pointing out, and you mentioned this, Victor, just how disappointed and frustrated the president seemed yesterday when talking about the negotiations that were going on just 2 days ago in Geneva between the president's top advisors, Steve Witkoff, and his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, with the Iranians and intermediaries in Switzerland, saying that they did not go far enough. And what we know that the United States wanted from Iran was to, one, be very clear that they had no goals and did not want to ever make a nuclear weapon, and also that they would commit to zero enrichment of uranium, things that the president argued they were not able to get to. And so that is what's led us to this moment. But of course, so many big questions, I think, that many Americans still have about what the future of this is going to look like. And that has been a big struggle for a lot of people I know in the White House and the top levels of the administration. There are a lot of Americans and a lot of Republicans, I should say, many members of the Republicans base who do not want the United States involved in another foreign war, and particularly a protracted, long engagement. And we've actually heard some of that pushback from members of Congress.
All right. I mean, she has a great point there, and I'm actually going to let me ask you guys. I'm going to ask you guys this, okay? Because we have a poll up there, so please answer the new poll. The new poll is, what scares you most about this? And I say scares is just a quick word, right? What concerns you most about this? Retaliation, can't even speak. Retaliation in the U.S., economic impact, cover up for domestic issues, okay? Just kind of, I want to get an idea of where we're at in our heads here with it. But then I want to say, hey, thank you, Julie. Thank you, Joyce. Appreciate that. I'm grateful to have the War Room crew on hand to provide some insights on everything today. Thank you. Appreciate that. I appreciate you so much. Thank you. Yeah, I'm trying to serve the best I can. You know, I'm give you guys the best I got based on my judgment, my experience. Okay, I don't know everything, but I know some stuff, and we can all learn together and figure things out together. Okay, that's it. This is, you know, when you come here in this stream, in this chat, you know, we're going to try and learn together and grow. I'm not out to prove any point. I'm politically independent, you know, so I try to call it like it is best I can, right? So I appreciate that. Thank you. It means a lot. And so the question I have is this, and she brings up a great point. That's why I like playing these videos too, because, you know, it triggers a lot of good thoughts and creativity. And so she's saying a lot of Americans, a lot of, you know, Republicans too. Okay, I'm politically independent, and it doesn't matter which way you lean, left, right, whatever you are. We're here to figure things out together. But you know, is it a major concern for you? I want you to put a 1 in the chat if it's a major concern for you that we're going to get involved in a major war in the Middle East now. And put a 0 in the chat if you think, put a 1 in the chat, it's a concern, right? Okay, so yeah, put a 1 in the chat if you are concerned. Not that you think, but you're very concerned that you think there will be a major war in the Middle East now because of this. And then put a 0 in the chat if you don't think there will be a major war in the Middle East now. I know it's not binary, it's not properly balanced, but 1 is you're very concerned, 0 is not that you're not very concerned, you're still concerned, but you just don't think it's going to happen. Okay? So Me personally, I don't think we're going to have a major war in the Middle East. That's just me personally. And here's why. I think this is a major war, right? Doing airstrikes. But the moment you start committing ground forces, like in Iraq, we went in there, right, to dig out WMDs, quote unquote. Okay. Yeah, Jimmy Johns, I hear you. Fog of war. That's right, Giovanni. But it's, yeah, okay, Giovanni, you don't think so there. I don't think so because now if we were invading, like I said, a brigade combat team, we're moving a Marine division, we're moving major Army assets, Air Force, Navy, you can move it around. When Army gets committed, even Marines are shock troops. They go in, they go out, right? Special operations, not even considering that, right? They're already there. Stuff's already happened. I'm just saying, I'm guessing, right? Not that I know. But when you move the Army in, that's when major ground war concerns are there, okay? Like, that's concerning. If we start seeing, like, major troop movements of, like, Army brigade combat teams, the Army starts boarding Navy ships. We're doing lots of flights in from Europe down to these bases in the Middle East. That's when I would say, okay, I think something's going to happen. So, all right, let's keep going. Let me know in the chat again. A 1 is you're very concerned there'll be a major ground war. A 0 is that not that you're not concerned there'll be a major ground war. I think we're all concerned about that, but 0, you just don't think that's going to happen. Okay, 1 or a 0. And please vote in the poll as well, too. The poll's been up for 4 minutes. We have 11 votes. 55% say that they're most scared of retaliation in the U.S. 36% they're very scared about the economic impact of all this, which honestly I am too. And 9% is concerned about cover up for domestic issues, like the overall theater of it all. Okay. Do you think, okay, Jimmy John's saying this is a valid point. Do you think that boots happen after Hormuz closure? Yeah, man. I mean, that's a great point too. Maybe. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. That might be. I'd have to look into it some more. If we were committing boots in the ground, it would have to really be because that they're taking something over or they need to root out. Like, let me say this. If Iran came here and did another 9/11 style attack and like rubbled one of our cities and killed thousands of our people, that's when you're going to see nasty stuff. And the IRGC was being defiant. The Iranian Republican Guard Corps was being defiant, saying basically, screw you, America, death to America. Yeah, we did it. Ha. What are you going to do about it? That's when you'd see, a big Mother Green machine, the big green machine Army going in. You'd see the Marine Corps going in to dig them out. Okay, I mean, I hate to say it. We'd pound them into oblivion with airstrikes, but you put boots in the ground, things get very, very rough, and that's a real commitment of American will. Okay, so I don't think so unless we were attacked. So the plot thickens, right? But that's a great question. Great question. Thank you for that. He's confirmed now. Commander's confirmed KIA. Okay, thanks, Jayburn. Appreciate it. Yeah, that's what I said that reporter on the ground and that Turkish reporter on the ground said his sources said he was killed. So now I appreciate you confirming that, Jay. If you can give us a source on that, that'd be appreciated. All right, guys, we're going to go a little longer here, and then I'll come back on probably later on to do some more, but I want to cover the initial reports we have.
Congress this morning making that point. And so that is going to be a crucial thing that the president and this White House needs to do moving forward, is to articulate exactly what their goal is as we move ahead in the days ahead with these operations.
Yeah, we'll expect that the recorded message that the president posted will not be the last we hear from him on justification for these strikes, considering that his promise to the American people was that there would be no new wars ahead of his 2024 reelection. Elena Trine for us there near the president's resort in Florida. We'll get back to you. Thank you. And we're getting reports of dozens of explosions across the Gulf, including Abu Dhabi, Bahrain, Qatar, all home to major U.S. bases. A senior official in Qatar says that the country intercepted 2 Iranian missiles fired.
Well, this right here is Abu Dhabi, UAE. Okay, UAE is a very modern place. The whole country was basically built up into modern cities over the past 20 years, more or less. Okay, so if you ever go there, you see it's very, very modern. Pretty cool place for sure. Very U.S. friendly from what I've seen. Very everyone friendly. Let's put it that way. This is like the one place you can go in Dubai where you can find anybody from anywhere and just there to do business. Politics, set it aside. There to do business. I think their tax advantages, things like that. So, and of course, Iran, has to strike them nuts. But anyway, let's keep going.
toward its territory. Let's bring in now CNN's Zach Cohen. Zach, what have you learned?
Yeah, Victor, U.S. officials really only describing the retaliatory strikes by Iran as an active situation. But as you mentioned, it does appear that multiple U.S. bases in the region have been targeted in response to this ongoing U.S.-Israeli operation targeting.
Again, the key word is targeted, because again, their accuracy of their weapon systems, I don't think is all that great. So they've targeted. Unfortunately, it's going to mean that they're striking, in and around the bases as well too. So probably collateral damage in those countries, I'm sure. Just calling it like it is.
The Iranian government, it seems. And look, this is a risk and a potential threat that Donald Trump was well aware of before he ordered this ongoing operation targeting Iran, in which he says is intended to carry out effectively regime change or to facilitate regime change. He was very concerned about the potential risk to U.S. forces in the region, and he even alluded to that in his video message, saying and acknowledging in a very frank way that this operation could result in U.S. casualties. And we've reported previously that that was a major concern of Donald Trump's top general, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Dan Kane, that he voiced concerns about the potential for U.S. casualties ahead of this operation. But still, obviously, that concern not outweighing what Donald Trump says that he wants to carry out here, and that is to encourage the Iranian people to rise up and take back their government. But we've also reported that there is not really a clear indication inside the U.S. government of what would come next, even if they can successfully facilitate regime change in Iran. So while we know that this operation is expected to go on for several days, or at least the Israeli and U.S. sides are both planning and preparing for that possibility, what would happen after that is very, very unclear at this stage.
All right, guys. So we got a good picture of what's going on here. Let me see. Got a great picture of what's going on here. We're figuring this out. And so put any questions you guys have in the chat, but I'm going to tell you what. And if you're just joining us right now, obviously the U.S. and Israel have launched strikes against Iran, and Iran is retaliating. The confirmed reports that the Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, has been killed, confirmed now by a Turkish journalist that I saw, also confirmed by sources of Turkish journalists, by Israeli intelligence, by Israeli news channel as well too, which maybe isn't always all that credible, but lots of reports saying he is dead. I saw some other reports inside Iran saying that he was wounded severely and now has died as well too. So that's the latest. We will find out the truth of it all. We're going to see what's next. I appreciate you guys being here. I will go live again to cover this either later this evening or tomorrow. I'll let you guys know. But that's going to be it for right now. And again, you guys remember to focus on what you can control and deep dive into it. And let's just make sure we're all taking good care out there. Okay, I appreciate you all being here with me. And like I always say, make yourselves better, make the world better. Have an amazing day. Focus on what you can control. And, enjoy each and every day you are here and you are alive, because every day is a gift, okay? And let's take good care of each other. All right, goodbye for now. I will see you guys all very soon. Go get yours. Let's go.